Hello everyone, my name is Justin Odisho, and in this video I'm going to show you a simple way to create these audio reactive wave spectrums around a circular avatar or logo in Adobe After Effects. So to begin, I've just opened Adobe After Effects, and I'm just going to drag a sample profile picture and audio clip that I want to work with into my project media bin. If you know your way around Photoshop, you could probably bring your picture in already circular and transparent, or if you happen to be working with a circular picture already, great, it'll save you a couple steps. But to begin, let's just click New Composition, and I'm going to use 1920 by 1080 just because I'm using it for YouTube standard size. And one important thing to note is the duration. This is how long that you want your composition to be. So I'm just going to work with about 60 seconds here. That's fine for me. But if you need a specific amount for a song or something, then make sure you're using that specific amount. Alternatively, if you just drag in any media into the timeline, it'll automatically create a composition exactly as long as that. But I'm going to press OK and work with this blank 1 minute timeline. And the first thing I'll do is just go to Layer, New, Solid, so we can work with a background image. So black background. And next, I'm going to drag in the picture that I'm working with. And I'm going to go to the right-hand side, click Align, and make sure I center it because I want it centered. So the next thing we're going to do to turn this square in a circle is head up to the Shape tool. So if it's on rectangular, you can click and hold until it drops down to ellipse. And make sure your photo layer is highlighted. I'm working with this JPEG. And you could try to create a circle exactly from corner to corner. You basically just don't want to go too far out of bounds. Keep it within the boundaries of your image and hold Shift while you're doing it so you have a perfect circle. So I think that looks about good. And I just want to double check, you can zoom in, make sure it's a clean circle. You didn't touch any edges. So that looks good for me. We've masked our square image into a circle. You can see that here, mask 1. So now for the fun part, let's start building our audio spectrum. So let's go to Layer, New, Solid. So we have something to work with in the composition size I'm going to use. So that way the boundaries are all the way to the edge of the composition, unlike the photo. And I'm actually going to take this mask. So I'm going to highlight this mask layer, press Command C to copy it, and I'm going to paste it onto this new black solid that we made. So you can see it pasted in here. If we drop down the mask menu, we see that same mask. But for this one, I want to change the mode to none. I'm not actually using it to mask anything. I just want to use it to tell After Effects what to do. So now let's go to the Effects and Presets panel on the right-hand side. Search for audio spectrum and click and drag it onto this layer. And now we have by default this pink dotted line. But since we've added the mask onto this layer, we can actually tell After Effects that the path of this, instead of being a straight line, let's use what mask 1 is, which is a circle. So you can't see it, but boom, we've created the dotted line. And if I actually want to extend it a bit so it's not touching exactly, I can drop down the transform section and just maybe increase the scale a couple dots upward, 105%. You shouldn't really see any decrease in the quality, but you'll create a little separation if you want. So now we have our audio spectrum wrapped in a perfect circle around our circular avatar or logo, but we want to make it react to something because it's not. So here is where we're going to go back to whatever audio clip that we had in the project media bin. And we're going to drag that into the top layer. So we see this is a 10-second clip of me just saying hello and talking. And I'm going to go back to the audio spectrum, go to the effect controls on the left-hand side, and make sure the audio layer that we're using to react to is whatever your audio is called. So mine is sample audio. And now we can start to see some movement. So by default, this is what it's going to look like. Now here's the fun part. I'm going to show you all these different little settings you have in the effects control panel. So you can change it from this kind of simple looking pink line to whatever you want. It's pretty flexible. So first we have the start and end frequency. If you can imagine, every audio track has a certain range of frequency from, let's say, 0 all the way to 5,000 or something. And everyone's voice is a little bit different, or every audio might be a little different. So the start and end frequency are telling you which range or section of the audio do you want us to create the waveform about. Now the next one's pretty important, is the frequency bands. So right now by default it's at 64, but if we double that, for example, to 128, you can see now there's twice as many frequency bands or points in between. Or if we lower that to, let's just say 10, now you see there's only 10 dots around. So you could choose what you think looks nice and experiment, but let me use something more on the higher side. So I'll do 200, for example. It almost looks like a solid spectrum, but with some dashed lines in between, making it look kind of stylish in my opinion. Next, we have the maximum height. This tells After Effects how high can these bounce in front of each other. Now, I don't want to make it too crazy to the point where things are bouncing off of each other, but let's make it decently high so you guys can see what's going on. And I would recommend constantly just playing it for a little bit to see how it's actually moving as you adjust things, because it can look different at each word or piece. Next is the audio duration. So how many milliseconds do you want visualized at one time? So the higher you do this, the slower that each shockwave, for example, will travel around the circle, because it's going to be representing more information. And the lower you make this, then the more static and crazy everything's going to look, because it's representing every millisecond at a time and it's constantly refreshing. So I'm also just going to leave that at about 100. You don't have to copy my settings exactly. I'm just teaching you what these are so that you can play around with them and combine them into your own style. The audio offset is how many milliseconds offset from the original track do you want it to be. This can come in handy when you're stacking effects or just for certain different looks if you want things to have a little bit of an echo. But in this case, I want it to be pretty accurate, so I'm just going to leave that at 0. And then the thickness of the lines, pretty self-explanatory. And also the softness, you can make them crisp or a little bit fuzzy with a glow. And that's going to go right into the next one, which is the inside and outside color. Here's where we can change it from pink to be whatever we want. So I could do an inside color of a light blue, the outside color of a darker blue, or something like that. Blend overlapping colors is an option you have. And hue interpolation is how many degrees of nearby colors on the color wheel do you want to creep in there. So if I interpolate, let's say 180 degrees, you're going to see half of the rest of the color wheel come in there. If I do a whole, you're going to see a rainbow of colors. Basically, you're seeing what's happening. So if you want some color creeping in from a different part of the hue cycle, you can choose how many degrees to implement. Sometimes it looks good. Sometimes you don't want other colors creeping in. I actually kind of like that light blue to dark blue look. I'm going to leave dynamic hue phase turned on, but you can experiment with turning it off. It just makes the hue kind of stay more static rather than reacting to the different peaks of audio. And color symmetry, you can see if you turn it off, it will start one color, and you can see the start and end point of the line, where if it's symmetrical, then you can't. So I'm going to keep it symmetrical so we can't see that. And then the display options are another place where you can change the aesthetic of the waveform. So digital is what it's at right now. You can also change it to analog lines, which is cool. So the lines are all zigzag connected. You can also do dots, which are like dots that bounce off of each other. The next option you have is duration averaging. And what this does is it kind of blends the differences in all the heights and it averages them together for more of like a smooth wave, which can be a cool aesthetic if you're going for it. Sometimes you might want that look. And then composite on original, we're not going to touch that because we actually want the solid that we made to be transparent instead of compositing it. Now, right now it's got two sides, sides A and B, but you can make it be only side A, so it's going in, or only side B, so that it doesn't touch your profile picture if you're wondering that. And also you can always just take your profile picture and make it the topmost layer so that the waveform never touches it or blocks it in any way. I also like to make sure that the waveform is kind of shooting out evenly across the entire thing. And this is where you can start to pay attention to the start and end frequencies a little bit better. I could see that I mostly speak around these frequencies, it seems like. So if I can expand, yeah, it looks like if I can lower the end frequency a little bit, you know, I can bring my tone around the whole circle, if you catch what I'm saying. Whereas if I made the end frequency really large, you see most of the action is happening right here and nothing on the rest of this tail end. So since all of these play off of each other so well, that's why you just keep playing it back and forth, tweaking this, going back and adjusting that, and adjusting all of them until you are happy with your final results. There's also one other audio effect that you could play around with, is the audio waveform effect. It's just kind of an alternative to the spectrum. You can go to audio layer, choose the audio layer that you want, make sure it's wrapped around that mask. Either one you go with, spectrum or audio, you can get some really cool effects and create audio spectrums for yourself. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it below, let me know what you thought in the comments, and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.